What is up, everybody? Trix Ridiculous back with another video, and we're gonna talk about a topic that I've brought up in the past, but now we've got even further evidence of this being a reality, and that is, of course, Marvel's Avengers being free to play. Before we get into it, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel for all Marvel's Avengers content updates, and I really appreciate the support. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. Now, I'm sure there are already some people that have stopped watching the video and they've already put a comment down below saying I'm an idiot and it's never going to happen. Well, let me explain it, because if you're in that boat, you're obviously not thinking through it. So I'm going to explain the whole situation, all right? Now, I've brought this up a number of times in the past. Should the game go free to play? I've been saying it should for a while, and obviously, there are probably some technicalities that none of us are, behind the scenes with. I'm sure there are contracts, there are deals, maybe contracts with Marvel. Maybe, we know that the game is currently on Xbox Game Pass, which is not free. That does not mean it's free, right? Let's get that right out of the way. But there's probably a contract in place with that, right? But we know games on Xbox Game Pass do not last or they do not stay on Xbox Game Pass forever, right? So it will eventually come out, and I really do believe that they are setting up this game for a free-to-play. I feel like the writing is on the wall. What we've seen in the last few updates and kind of what I've got on screen, you're not going to be able to read this, probably a little too small, but basically this is the old February development update. Really just kind of the two different updates. I won't go into them in too much depth, but basically the first update that we got was that they're reworking the war table. Nick Fury is coming back. They're reworking kind of some of the mission selectors. We heard in the latest dev stream they're kind of reworking the Reign Supreme quest line. They're making things a little easier to understand, making more, clear paths to leveling your heroes, clear paths of kind of what gear you're going to get, right? And then that kind of leads us into the second update that we just recently got, which was the reworking hero set gear, right? Changing a lot of the names of the perks, making it a lot easier to understand, making it make more sense. We saw earlier, or I should say rather late last year, obviously they did the whole economy revision, right? They got rid of a lot of the confusing resources, dumbed it down a little bit. And really, if you're reading between the lines in a lot of this stuff, it all has the same theme of making the game new player friendly, right? Making the game more accessible, easier to understand, making it so that when new players come into the game, it's a clear, easy to understand game. They don't get overwhelmed, they don't get confused, and they don't just put the game down because they're not understanding what to do next. It's meant to, these are changes, these are fundamental changes that are making the game more accessible to new players. Now, if I'm reading between the lines on that, it would seem to me that they are expecting an influx of players at some point. So what is going to get them an influx of players? Well, if we look at Steam charts, we'll see that the game is not doing well right now. And I know some of you are going to come at me erroneously saying that, oh, you can't go by Steam charts. You can't go by Steam charts. Yes, I understand that Steam charts is not a perfect representation of all the data out there, but it is currently the only representation we've got. And I'll show you exactly my point as to why it is still reliable, right? So right now you can see, this is just at the time of this recording, 232 concurrent players on Steam. Obviously, those numbers are a little higher on PlayStation and Xbox, but I assure you, they're not breaking the doors down in terms of numbers on those platforms either. But you could see, obviously, the game was at an all-time peak of 28,000, and that's just concurrent players. That's not total players who have actually played the game. 28,000 players is a good chunk of players, right? If you actually look at, these top games by current players, right, you'll look, obviously, it's not in the realm of, like, a Counter-Strike or a Dota, or Apex or any of these tickets. But if you come down to like the top 25, I mean, Warhammer, Valheim, Dead by Daylight, I mean, these are games that have been around for a while and they're averaging in the 30s and 40,000s, right? And these are games that are primarily played on PC here, right? Arc, Sid Meteors, right? Okay. So, 28,000 is a respectable chunk of players. Now, that's not even where I'm going to focus, right? What I'm actually going to show you is if you look at July 2021, look at this. So in May, there were 1,390 players, so a little over 1,000, we'll just say. But then look at this. In June to July, it jumped up to 10,000 players. Now, you may not remember, but that was actually a full free-to-play month that they did in this game. They let the game be free for a month. And look at how the player base jumped. It jumped to 10,000, all right? Now, again, I'll go back to the Steam charts. 10,000 would put this game probably, maybe in the top 50 of total games on Steam if they could average 10,000. And the thing about it, too, is they're not selling the game anymore, all right? This brings me to kind of my final point. Look at this. If I go on eBay, right, and I'm looking at completed listings right here, look at this. Just yesterday, a brand new copy of Marvel's Avengers used sold for $10 and $3 shipping, so under $15. Here's another one, $10. Here's another one, $8. Here's one for $5. Okay, you can just buy a used copy of this game at a yard sale for $1, okay, and then throw it into your PS4 and it'll work, or throw it into your PS5 and get the free PS5 upgrade. And Crystal Dynamics is not making any money off of these used game resales, right? They're only making money on brand new purchases of the game, either from, a GameStop if you're going to go there and buy one, or downloads from, the PlayStation Store or Xbox, or, whatever money they're making through the Xbox Game Pass of people playing it there, right? But otherwise, they're not making any money selling the game. So why do they even continue to sell it for any dollar value? And we already know that the game is pretty heavily microtransaction monetized, right? They're coming out with outfits every week, right? That are all $14. It might not be as heavily monetized as like the granddaddy Fortnite, but these are pretty big purchases. $14 is more than you can actually buy the game for, right? So you can't tell me that they can just, huddle around, because realistically, if we're just going to get down to the brassest of tacks, these numbers, even if you tripled these numbers or 10 times these numbers for PlayStation and Xbox, that is not a sustainable player base. That is not enough to pay the bills, period. It's just not. All right. So we can diddle daddle about whether or not it's something that's going to work, whether or not the game can keep going, but realistically, they cannot keep the game going at these numbers. I'm just going to be frank about it. But if they could get the game up to 10,000 players on PC and then make it also free to play on PlayStation, I'm sure that number will be, 3 or 4 times whatever the PC numbers are, right? The numbers are going to jump up. And then if any of those players buy a $5 skin, a $10 skin, a $14 skin, whatever, that's going to be way more revenue for Crystal Dynamics in the long haul. So long story short, bringing it all back. So that's all the proof that you guys should really need. The game is going to be, this is my prediction, I don't have any inside knowledge or inside information, but the game is going to go free to play. It is inevitable, and it makes sense that they are really building the foundation for a new player-friendly environment that people can easily jump into the game and not be super lost with everything that's going on. To me, if you're reading between the lines here, every path here leads to free to play. And looking at the numbers, it only makes sense that they give the game away for free and try to sell microtransactions. So this is not something they're going to announce until the very minute that it actually happens, because obviously they're not going to say, hey, 6 months from now the game's going to be free to play. Obviously they're going to hope whatever sales they can get from now and then are going to be sales. And then the other thing too is, like, a lot of people, again, these are the people who may have already commented on this video, but if you bought the game at launch for $60 and now you're salty because it's going to go free to play, that's a really invalid argument. Like, the game's been out for almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in the next 4 months. Like, games lower in price all the time. Like, pretty much any game you bought for $60, aside from like a Mario or a Zelda 2 years ago, is worth a lot less now. All right. So the companies just has to make a decision and, make the game free to play. It's just a business move, right? So it is what it is. I mean, you could have bought Fortnite, the PvE version of the game, for whatever amount you bought it for when the game came out, and now Fortnite's the biggest free to play game in the world. So I mean, it has to be done. It just has to be done. So anyway, that's my little rant and prediction. I again, absolutely no idea as far as time frame. My guess is when it comes off of the Xbox Game Pass subscription, that's probably a good indicator that it's pretty close by. So just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I foresee them making more and more changes like this, fundamental development changes that make the game more accessible to new players. Because once, as we can see, obviously, from this spike here, once they make the game free to play, there is going to be a significant spike in players. Because the thing is, the other argument that I've heard is, oh, if the game's only $5, what's the difference? Well, there's a big difference, actually, in consumer sentiment from $5 to free. Hell, even from $1 to free. If you go on your phone, if you see like an app or a game that costs $1, versus an app or a game that's completely free, there's like a 99% better chance you're going to click on the free one, right? Like, people will try free, right? But $1, $5, no one's going to throw $5 at Avengers with as bad of a rap as it's got, right? But if the game was free, people might say, let me check it out, right? I like looters. Let me check it out. And to be honest, the game, when it works, obviously bugs aside, but when it works, the game is fun. We all can agree on this. The combat is really cool. The characters play really well. There are now quite a few characters in the game, at least on PlayStation. I mean, if they can get the game into more people's hands, I think more people will actually enjoy the game. I think we can all agree the game is a little bit overhated. Some of it rightfully so, but some of it is just from the game just having a bad rap out of the gate, and it's just never recovered from. But honestly, if they can get the game into more people's hands that kind of like this genre of game, especially for free, they'd probably stick around. So that's my take. That's really all I got. I could talk in circles on this for a while. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, be sure to like the video if you agree, or even if you disagree, just like it anyway. And subscribe if you're new. Join the Discord, link in the description for more Avengers content and discussion. That's it for me, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.